We've for years have known that Jason Momoa was going to be the new Lobo. From the day he put up that video on his social media of him coming out of the Warner Brothers studio building, all hyped and screaming and cheering. And we're all like, oh, they just told him he's going to be Lobo for sure. And then the official announcement came. Jason Momoa is coming as Lobo in the new Supergirl movie coming out in just a few months. One would think that
so great.
if you have Jason Momoa, that looks great. He's born to play this role. As Lobo, you might think they would have a lot of big future plans for him as the character. But according to Jason Momoa, who's extremely hyped for this movie, he actually doesn't know if they're ever going to use him again. This came to us from Total Film, who wrote the following. I only know Lobos in this one, and so we'll see what the future of all that holds. I would love for his own thing to be coming out, Momoa said in a separate interview with Screen Rant. Supergirl flies into cinemas on June 26, almost a year after Superman launched the DCU in cinemas, with a mission statement about why not every superhero female lead needs to be perfect. So again, going back to Momoa's here, I think Jason Momoa has been pretty upfront and forthright about everything involving him and Lobo. I mean, he's not answered what he can't answer, but I've never found he's been particularly misleading in any of his answers about what's going on. And I kind of believe him when he says, I only know Lobo's in this one. Like, that's all he knows. Now, that's not to say that James Gunn and Peter Safran may not know that they have certain plans for Lobo down the line, and they are simply not letting Jason in on it yet. Maybe they want to see how well the character plays out in this particular movie to see if they might want to use him as a utility later on down the road. I doubt we'll ever get a Lobo standalone movie. But then again, this is the same guy who brought us Starro and Polka Dot Man, so who knows and gave Peacemaker his own series, so who knows. I have a feeling, though, look, when you get a guy like this who seems to embody the character so perfectly, and again, we're only going off of theoreticals and very brief glimpses in a trailer. Maybe he's terrible as Lobo. I have a feeling he's going to be pretty damn great as Lobo. I have a feeling he's going to be great. I would be surprised if we don't see him more moving forward. But Rob, I got to say, I'm not surprised that James Gunn may not be sitting down with him to talk about future projects, because James Gunn seems to me to be a guy, when talking to his actors, who would rather underpromise and overdeliver than overpromise and not deliver. So I'm not surprised Jason is saying he doesn't know if Lobo's going to be any more things, but I would be surprised if he not. What do you think about his comments?
Well, I mean, there's nothing really on the schedule, so I think it's obvious that he doesn't know what the plans are moving forward. But I think it really depends. If Supergirl is a breakout hit, which it could be, or he is a breakout star as Lobo in that movie, I think it's probably a pretty good bet. The same way, we've seen very successful introductions of one character. I always go back to Black Panther in Captain America Civil War, and obviously they were going to spin him out, but that Black Panther movie made over $1 billion because his performance, Chad Boseman's, his performance was so good. And if Lobo becomes a fan favorite, I can only look, watching Jason Momoa in the Wrecking Crew, I could see a little Lobo flavor in what we're going to get, and I think that, I mean, I've always loved the character of Lobo. He's kind of the intergalactic Wolverine, kind of, by way of British artists like Simon Bisley. I think it'll be great. And if they made a Lobo standalone movie, there's certainly enough comic books where they could look to and say, oh yeah, this would work. And I think it really depends on what the DC universe does with their cosmic characters moving forward. But I think for sure we'll probably see Lobo again. There's just nothing concrete right now that he can say. So I believe him when he says that he doesn't know what the future is. I think that's absolutely true. But if there's something concrete, he'll say it, because he's going to be as excited as we will to see it.
Now, I think it's appropriate that you brought up the comparison to Wolverine, because correct me if I'm wrong. Guys in the live chat, correct me if I'm wrong too. But a couple of decades ago, DC and Marvel did this big comic book crossover event where one of their universes was going to be destroyed and several champions from each side had to battle it out. So what DC and Marvel did was each issue had one prime character. So you had Superman fighting Hulk. I believe they had Wonder Woman fight Storm. Robin fought Jubilee. But I believe, and again, correct me if I'm wrong, I think one of the matchups was Lobo versus Wolverine, if I'm not mistaken.
It might very well have been.
I think that was it. People in the live chat are saying, yes, that's the one it was. Although, while I remember that Superman won, and I remember a bunch of other, I cannot remember who won in the battle between Wolverine and Lobo.
The readers.
The readers won. That's right.
There you go.
Guys, we want to take a second and thank the sponsor of today's episode, PrizePicks. Well, the big game is almost here, and there's no better way to cash in during America's biggest sporting event than with PrizePicks, where it always feels good to be right. With the football season coming to a close, this is your last chance to jump into football action before next year, and PrizePicks is making it easy by giving you $50 instantly in lineups when you play your first $5 lineup. What I've always loved about PrizePicks is how simple it is. You're just picking more or less on player projections, building your lineup, and rooting at home while you watch the game. I also really like their early payouts feature. If a player gets off to a hot start, you can cash out before the game even ends. And with the new social feed, you can follow other players, copy lineups that you like, or use them as inspiration for your own. So don't miss out. Download the PrizePicks app today and use the code CAMPEA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. That's code CAMPEA to get $50 in lineups after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks. It's good to be right. Anyway, guys, question is for you. What do you think about this? Jason Momoa, super excited about playing Lobo in the upcoming Supergirl movie, but he's saying as of right now, he honestly doesn't know if he's going to be in anything else. I'd be surprised if he wasn't, but I kind of believe him when he says he doesn't know. What do you guys think? Whatever your thoughts are, jump down to the comment section below and leave those thoughts there. Hey guys, thanks so much for watching this video. Make sure you like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe to our channel. And don't forget, we have a daily podcast called the John Campea Show podcast, available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, or your favorite podcasting app of choice. Go and subscribe to it today so it'll be there when you need it.